We want you to know that we did extend an invite to every candidate in every race today, and reached out to them by every means that we could find available. So whether that was email, phone, whatever the case may be, everybody was extended an invite for today. Also, depending on time, at the end of the forum, we'll see how it goes, and if we have enough time and being respectful of everyone's schedule, we will open it up for questions at the end of the forum as well. So we'll get going today, and we are here to learn more about the candidates that are vying for the 44th, 45th, 46th, 47th, and 50th District State Representative seats, as well as our Boone County Presiding Commissioner and Boone County Clerk seats. So today's forum is going to be just a little bit different than we have done in the past. Since we have several positions, we will have 3 sections of questions and answers with different candidates. So first up, we have the 44th and 46th district candidates, and then we'll follow that by the 47th and 50th district candidates, and then we will follow up and finish with our Boone County races. So each section today is going to have different questions. Tomorrow morning, we will send all of the questions to the candidates and ask them to respond to those questions in writing, and then we will post those on our website and through social media. So if that sounds good, I will explain today's format and we will get started. So the candidates will be given 1 minute of self-introduction. Each candidate will then respond to a series of questions that have been prepared by us at the chamber. Candidates will be allowed 2 minutes to respond per question, and we do have a timekeeper that will hold up the time and count down, and you will have a bell that will ring when time is expired, and that is Penny on the front row for us. At the end of the forum, we will allow audience questions as the time allows, as I mentioned, and then we will end with 1 minute closing remarks from each candidate. So if everybody understands that, then we'll get started. So today we are starting off with the 44th and 46th District State Representative seats. From the 44th District, we have Representative Cherie Tolson-Reich and Dr. Maren Bell-Jones. Moran, sorry. That's okay. And the 46th District, Kathy Richards, Representative Martha Stevens, and as I mentioned, William Hastings was also invited. All right, we'll get started with opening statements. And we will start with Representative Cherie Tolson-Reich.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you to the Columbia Chamber of Commerce. I feel like you all speak my language and I speak your language. I've been a small business owner for 25 years. I know what it's like to sign a paycheck, and I've also run a city, so I also know what it's like to meet a budget. And at the state legislative level, we have done so many good things to roll back hard regulations that make things a little easier on businesses. When I spent 24 years on the Ready Board, I like to use their motto, and that is to retain current jobs, expand current jobs, but also to recruit and bring new jobs to Columbia. We are so fortunate that we have about 1.5% unemployment in this area, but my motto has always been jobs, 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 and I will continue to build on that. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Maren Bell-Jones, and I'm the Democrat candidate for the 44th Missouri State House District. I am from Columbia and lived here the last 18 years or so. I went to Mizzou for undergrad, grad school, and veterinary medical school, and just like my dad before, who also got his MBA here and his undergrad here. So business is a bit in our family. My husband also has his undergrad and his MBA from Mizzou. So when I decided to start my own small business, being a veterinary medical practice owner, for doing house calls in the area, I had a lot of good help from a lot of good folks, but still a lot of it was learned from the School of Hard Knocks, for sure. 'Cause there's only so much you can do from reading books when it comes to starting a small business. So I was very fortunate to have a lot of great mentors to reach out to me. So would love to use that experience that I had in creating and helping more small business owners get their foot in the door and succeed.
Hi, I'm
I'm Kathy Richards, and I've lived in the district here 22 years, and I'm a lifer, Boone County. I'm running for state representative. I think that's where I want to go today, is just to be able to work for my district and to make the rest of Columbia a better place, as well as create legislation to help making just a better Missouri. In addition, I was the public administrator of Boone County for 8 years, and there I had to take care of my own budget. I fired people. I worked with people all over the state because I became president of MAPA, and that's the Missouri Association of Public Administrators. That's working with 114 counties. From there, I was on a legislative committee with the Missouri Association of Counties, and I also was on a legislative committee with my Missouri Association of Public Administrators. I helped get House Bill 1565, which had to do with Medicaid assets from $9.99 to $2,000, and then from couples $2,000 to $4,000. I want to say my goal as a state representative would be to just continue helping people and stay in touch with them and updating the statutes. I would thank you very much, and I'd appreciate your vote November 6th.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting us. My name is Martha Stevens. I'm the current representative in the 46th District. Prior to being elected in 2016, I was a social worker, and I worked for different non-profits here in Missouri and out west, and then started to do more advocacy on the policy level, which is what led me to run for office in 2016. And so a lot of my focus has been on issues around expanding access to health care and to mental health care for Missourians. This past year, I focused a lot on legislation around the opioid epidemic. So brought forward legislation to extend healthcare services for new moms suffering from addiction. That's something that worked across the aisle and found colleagues to get that passed and signed into law this year. So healthcare issues have been something that I've focused on, but also I'm a huge supporter of making sure that our K-12 schools are adequately funded and our institutions of higher education as well. So I look forward to today's discussion.
Very good, thank you all. So just a reminder, we'll start with the questions now, and the questions that are asked of those running in the 44th and 46th districts will also be presented to the other House races and will be sent to you then in print once we get those back. So our first question today, which Dr. Jones, we will start with you on the first answer, is in regards to online sales tax. The Supreme Court's decision on the South Dakota versus Wayfair case regarding charging sales tax on internet purchase from companies that have no property or employees in the state, how would you support efforts to implement a streamlined sales and use tax agreement? Two.
So certainly a lot of people don't always think of veterinarians as small business owners, but absolutely I do agree that we need to have a sales and use tax for internet sales. A lot of people don't realize it, but as a small business owner, I do lose a certain percentage of my sales that go to what I have to do for my livelihood, to places like Chewy.com and Amazon, and I'm not opposed to those places. I think that's fine. A lot of my clients, because they're disabled or they don't drive, that's why I'm a house call vet, I go to see them. So it's not always so easy to get supplies. So I totally understand why they like those services. But the problem is in my industry, and as well as many of you, I imagine, if you have retail sales, we do lose that money to those online retailers. So that's a problem. So what I would like to see is a way that we can somehow balance it between the needs of the consumers who are using our products while still being fair to our local small businesses. It's incredibly important to keep the diversity of small businesses alive and well, and that's part of that, is making sure that they can still keep a portion of their profits for the stuff that we sell, for the owner's conveniences and for the client's convenience.
We'll actually move down to Kathy. You'll be the next one to answer this question.
And I take the same question.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And how do I get into me again?
Yeah, you bet. The Supreme Court's decision on the South Dakota versus Wayfair case regarding charging sales tax on internet purchases from companies that have no property or employees in the state. How would you support efforts to implement a streamlined sales and use tax agreement?
Well, I would have to get it on the ballot or talk with people around about how to get it going. I am for the sales tax thing. I mean, to be able to make money for our businesses here. We're losing money all the time, and something has to be done about keeping that money here so these small businesses can grow.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, so this is something that I do support. I think it's a great way for us to bring in increased revenue in our state. And I think we all know that our budget has been hurting, so I think that that's an opportunity. I actually had a constituent reach out to me a couple weeks ago about this, and it sounds like, talking with caucus staff and the folks that work in Jefferson City, that we'll have to file some legislation around this to get it implemented post the Supreme Court ruling. So that's something that I anticipate will be a bipartisan effort, and I think it's a good opportunity for Missouri.
I support an online sales tax for 2 reasons. Number one, we need to help our brick and mortar businesses stay in business. You can see right here in Columbia where Macy's, Sears, and other buildings have closed. We have lost jobs and we have lost that sales tax revenue. Yes, it's a convenience to go to Amazon, but I'm the first to admit I've never used Amazon in my life. I like to shop local and think global, but spend my dollars in my local community. Number 2, I worked for a city and now I work for the state. We need to look at the budget. We need to look at the bottom line of how this affects cities, counties, and state revenues. So we need to equal the playing field and we need to get this in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Kathy, we will start with you to answer the next question. Missouri has the 7th largest transportation system in the country, but ranks 46th in revenue per mile to take care of the roads, bridges, and highways. How would you support efforts to increase the gas tax or other funding plans to increase the amount of revenue per mile?
I sat over there at the Chamber of Commerce in 2016 and made that same statement that we need to do something about our roads, our infrastructure, and I was for a 10% sales tax. In order for us to grow here in Columbia and to entice businesses in and to keep them, to have strong schools, and we have to remember, all this centers around infrastructure. All of it does. We want to have safe roads, safe bridges. We want to have ways to have people come in so that they go, gosh, it's easy to get to Columbia. For the farmers to be able to get into their produce out and get it in over safe roads and things. I would do whatever I could to advocate to make sure that there is something passed so that we can have good roads. We're behind and we need to get it up. I've been going from Kansas City to St. Louis often during the summer, my family and business. And I'm telling you, if there's always an accident and it's very dangerous and it's always overcrowded. So I-70 is a priority along with the infrastructure here around Boone County.
Thank you, Martha.
Yeah, so this is a really serious issue. That's the statistics that you just put out about how Missouri ranks. And so for me, it's a public safety issue. And so I know that we need to do something to address it. I've endorsed Prop D. That's something that I support. I think it's a good start. We have over 3,000 bridges here in Missouri that have been classified deficient. And so I think that's also obviously a public safety public safety issue. So I think we also need to have some serious discussions in Jefferson City about increased revenue and things around that, about how we can get some more money into our budget to also fully fund, because Prop D isn't going to take care of everything, but it's a good start, and I absolutely endorse it.
Thank you. Okay, Sheree, we'll move over to you.
This spring in the legislature, I voted yes to put Prop D on the ballot. I support it and I do plan to vote yes on the November ballot. There's a couple of things though. When you read that ballot language, it sounds a little convoluted and a little confusing. You're going to see in there Olympic medals. So I don't want to throw people off for the underlying monies that this will bring in. I think it's a feel-good thing. If you're an Olympic medal winner in the state of Missouri, which there are very few, I think we should give you a tax break on that. But here's the bottom line. We need to reach out and fix these road problems and bridge problems. We also need to look at things from another angle. I sit on a policy development committee in the House, chaired by Jeff Messenger of Springfield. And we did an in-depth study and an analysis of MoDOT. And they have all these different buckets of money. But what a lot of people don't know, the more money we can bring into Missouri, we can get those federal matching dollars. And we can stretch our money twice as far. At the county level, I worked with Boone County back in 1992 or 94 when we passed the half-cent sales tax. And so Boone County has found a good solution to help with a lot of road and bridge problems here in Boone County for the cities and the county. But we need to take a serious look at the state of Missouri and why our roads are deficient. That needs to not happen. I encourage you to vote yes. Thank you.
So as a house call vet, I see all over Boone County. I see all the counties that touch Boone County. So I put an average of about 40,000 miles on my truck every year. That's a lot of, I see the mechanic pretty frequently. They enjoy seeing me. So I would agree, certainly in this area, it's a concern. I also, just as a fun fact, I'm also a national level dog trainer, so I compete all over the country. Me and my husband, we do with our dogs. So there's sometimes people propose, well, what about a toll road? Well, unfortunately, and 99 times out of 100, toll roads don't typically go away once they come up. They're kind of there in perpetuity to be paying for themselves. And it hurts small businesses because if you look at like the Kansas City Turnpike, it's a very nice road quality, but there's pretty much nowhere that easily you can pull off. And once those small businesses off those exit ramps, they're sitting there, nobody's gonna wanna pull off the turnpike because you gotta go get a new ticket and you gotta put your money, all that. So the thing about it is the gas tax, I feel especially, I wish it was just kind of focused a little bit more on petroleum versus diesel. I wish that was differentiated a little bit better. However, that being said, I think it's the best way to go to get our roads and our bridges in better shape.
Very good. Thank you very much for answering all of those questions for us today. So we are going to move to closing statements. And Representative Stevens, we will start with you, and you each have 1 minute.
Well, again, thank you for organizing this event today and for having us out here and being engaged. You know, I'm really proud of the work that I've done over the last 2 years, the relationships that I've built with different advocates and stakeholders and community members and folks across the aisle. And so I would ask for your vote on November 6th so I can continue to do the work that I've started over the last 2 years with a real focus in supporting expanded access to health care and mental health care for Missourians. So thank you.
Sheree, you'll go next.
Okay. Well, since I'm preaching to the choir, I again want to thank the chamber. We had a meeting with the legislators, I believe, earlier this year or last year, and you all set forth from the Columbia Chamber of Commerce your legislative priorities. And I think we met or almost met every single one of those. I see Matt in the back maybe shaking his head yes, but the thing is, if you want something done in Jeff City with the supermajority that we have, the Republican Party can get things done, and you need to carry a bill or get some laws passed, you need to come to a Republican to make that accomplishment done. I just appreciate, I want to throw out there with my 36 years of experience in government, being a small business owner, and I have been endorsed by the Missouri Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Thanks everybody again for having us. Again, I would love to see more diversification in our local small businesses. I don't think you should have to have an MBA or advanced level of education to open a nail salon or open a lawn cutting service. I think we need to make it so it is a situation where if people want to start their dream and get their own small business, that this is going to be something that we can support. I would like to see an expansion, especially in rural Missouri, of the Small Business Development Center. That was very helpful to me when I was starting my local small business and getting a business plan set up. So I would like to see more in-person training in the rural parts of our state. Webinars are great, but that's not everybody's thing, and especially when webinars require broadband, that can be a problem. So I'd really like to see the local small businesses diversified, expanded, and supported through the Small Business Development Center.
You lucky people. You have me at the end. I just want to say that, like I said, I'm a life Boone Countyan. I've lived on gravel roads. I've lived on blacktops. I go over the interstate. Columbia is a great place to live. We just need to come up and make sure to get those other people in here, all of these businesses that we want to sustain and to have others grow, is we need affordable housing, we need infrastructure taken care of, we need these legislation that implements streamline taxes for the sales use taxes, for instance, for our small businesses. We need to have the best schools. We need to pay our teachers well to have the best schools, so they'll come in and want to stay. I'm all for the University of Missouri, the Lifeline. I'm telling you, we need to help them as much as possible. And more than anything, if you get me in there, I will advocate for you strongly. I am a Farm Bureau member. I used to be for the chamber. I was a member, but then when I retired, that all left. And so anyway, I appreciate your vote, November 6th. It won't be wasted.
Very good, thank you again. So 44th District, Representative Cherie Tolson-Reich, Dr. Marin Bell-Jones, thank you both very much. And the 46th District, Kathy Richards, and Representative Martha Stevens. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We gotta have separation. We gotta run something.
Matt, I think you have the wrong name. Do you have Sarah's name?
I already had Sarah.
I thought that was
Isn't this interesting? Yeah. Okay, so now we are moving on to districts 47 and 50. And out of those, we have running for state representative offices, we have Representative Sarah Walsh, Michaela Skelton, Representative Chuck Basie, and Adrian Plank. And just a reminder that every and all candidates were invited today and reached out to, and we thank both of our current representatives for being here with us today. So we will get started. You guys want to battle it out? Who starts? Rock, paper, scissors, maybe? Yeah. Okay. So we'll start with opening statements, and you have 1 minute each. So Sarah, go ahead.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Representative Basie. It has been such an honor to serve with the Missouri Legislature this past year. Coming into a special session and serving on the Budget Committee and 6 House committees has been incredible. As one of the things, just to point out, is that I've been an advocate for business. And it's such an honor to be endorsed by the Missouri Chamber of Commerce as well as the NFIB, both last time and then this election as well. I want to encourage good paying jobs for our state and our local district. And I supported numerous pieces of legislation that we passed this year that are going to help our job creators and communities, such as legislation to build the next generation wireless infrastructure, legislation to lower corporate and individual taxes, legislation for rural broadband development, legislation for grid modernization, legislation that allows businesses to hire a veteran or grant preference to a veteran or the spouse of a disabled veteran with a service-connected disability or a surviving spouse of a deceased veteran when hiring and promoting employees. It is such an honor to serve you, and we'll touch on more of those in my closing statements.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you to the Chamber for this event. It's very nice to be here. I'm Chuck Basie, represent District 47. And it is, as Ms. Walsh said, it is a true honor serving in the General Assembly. It's a very interesting endeavor. I'm running for my third term. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I retired from the Federal Aviation Administration after a 31-year federal career, including my military time. Graduated from the University of Missouri with a Bachelor of Science degree in agriculture. I am a member of the Farm Bureau, the Missouri Cattlemen's Association, the MU Alumni Association, and also the Marine Corps League, Attachment 828, that meets at the VFW here in town. I'm going to continue to advocate for things that are important to the 47th District. It's a blended district. I have urban and rural areas, and that's jobs and economy, agriculture, education, our veterans, and our first responders. Thank you very much.
Very good, thank you. All right, as we start with our first question, Chuck, we'll have you start this one first, and again, 2 minutes for responses. So our first question is in regards to workforce development. Job training is an important part of economic development, as is job retention and creation. How would you support local communities in meeting their regional needs?
That's a great question. We have our new governor, Governor Parson, has one of his priorities is not only infrastructure but workforce development. And so he's currently in the planning stages of coming up with some strategies on how we can utilize our great university here in Columbia, but also our other universities and our community colleges to come up with training opportunities for individuals so they can move from the educational setting right into a job environment. So that's something that I will continue to support. I think it's a very good concept that Governor Parson is championing there. And I look forward to working with him and my colleagues in the legislature to get that done.
And to tag on to that, the same types of things, I would be obviously working with Governor Mike Parson and working on his two priorities, infrastructure and workforce development. Those of us in the legislature, those are top priorities for us as well. And it's going to be great to see us all moving Missouri forward for those. Some other things in my particular district, so in Montauk County, they have the Montauk Regional Economic Development Team. And what that group does is they've been working on apprenticeship programs. They've had all sorts of stakeholders from the community working with the local school and helping kids also be able to have job fairs right there at the school and see what careers they might be interested in, and then go through the process of certifying different businesses that have apprenticeship programs. So I think part of it is, of course, the governor's traveling the state and kind of working to have a good collaborative effort where all the different groups can kind of communicate what good efforts that they're doing. And I'm really proud to be a part of that. And so by attending meetings throughout the district, continuing to be a full-time representative and very active throughout the community, is to be able to share that message and be a part of that solution. It's going to take all of us. It's going to take our schools. It's going to take our universities. It's going to take everyone from every level of government and business as well to be able to have those partnerships. One of the other pieces of legislation that we did this session was passing legislation, which is House Bill 1415, that allows teachers to count hours spent in externships with local businesses as professional development hours. So that helps in a way as well. So just more partnerships, being creative, thinking outside the box, and working together is what I will continue to do in the Missouri House.
Very good. So the second question, Sarah, we'll stay with you on this one, is in regards to prescription drugs. So we all know that there's a growing issue surrounding opioid abuse and addiction. How do you lower workforce drug abuse and insurance costs for employers?
Well, that's going to be a multifaceted problem. It's going to take a multifaceted solution. I've been attending a lot of the Youth Community Coalition meetings right here in Boone County, and there's a local group in Ashland as well. And helping young people realize, before they even get a job, 95% of these addictions are starting before the children reach the age of 21. That's very, very young. So we need to continue efforts in the community. Many of the nonprofits are working towards this. It will be a collaborative effort to help young people realize the dangers and of substance use addiction. And so continuing to work on those efforts so you can reach people when they're young. And then so far as moving forward with that, so PDMP, that type of a program, but for the last state that does not have one, it's gone through the legislature several times, not quite made it over the finish line. Really the only So next session, I believe this issue, I'm confident this issue will come up again. I think it's just one of those things that we just need to all work together to address privacy concerns, but then be able to have a solution, so that way people are not doctor shopping and they're able to, kind of help people get help as well. So it's going to take, again, collaborative effort, and I'm all on board with that.
Yeah, another great question. As Representative Wall said, we did participate in a youth coalition forum a couple weeks ago, and it is a significant issue with our youth, and I think it has been for some time. But one thing that I still not quite comfortable admitting, I have a granddaughter in high school now, and I know I'm getting older, but when I say that, it reinforces that I realize I am old. But she told me one of the topics at that forum was something that I wasn't aware of. It's called juuling, and it's a smokelet, or not a tobacco product, but
Vapor.
yeah, vapor. But it's a significant problem, and I was talking to her the other day, and she very frankly told me that a lot of her friends are doing that at school, and it's a serious problem.
That can't be right. Go ahead, Chuck, we're saying that.
As Sarah said, I have supported the prescription drug monitoring bills that have passed through the legislature. Unfortunately, we didn't get that done, and that is a significant problem. I believe that would, it's not the solution, but it would help get us there. If we could become the 50th state out of 50 that would have that program, I think that would be very, very important. Anyway, I'm out of time.
No, we kind of messed that up a little bit, sorry about that, but if you have anything else to say, feel free to, okay, all right, thank you so much. All right, so, with that, we will move to closing statements, and, Chuck, I think we start with you this time, so 1 minute each.
Okay, thank you. One thing that Sheree said about, we did accomplish a great deal this session, and most of the chamber priorities we accomplished. But one that the bill that I carried with Senator Rowden was the school bus bill, and we almost got that through, but due to one senator that threw a roadblock up on that, it was taken out of a bill that I attached it as an amendment. So I'm going to, if I do make it through this election, I'm going to reach out to Senator Libela ahead of time and try and work out his concerns before I pre-file that bill. And I think, hopefully, I know he's a very reasonable person, and we can come to a solution on that. But anyway, I'm just about out of time. But I'm going to continue to work very hard for solutions to the problems we're facing. And it is an honor to serve the legislature, and I appreciate you all allowing us to be here.
Thank you, go ahead, Sarah.
Again, it's been an honor to serve the Missouri legislature this past session, and wrapping up on a few of the more business-related things that we passed in the Missouri legislature. We also passed legislation that specifies that the state may not impose a substantial burden on an individual pursuit of his or her occupation or profession unless there's reasonable interest for the state to protect the general welfare. Those types of common sense reforms, reducing regulation and just burdensome requirements for people to start businesses is something that we did. We also passed, I'm also a member of our area chambers of commerce, passed a lot of different bills, and I'm a member of chambers of commerce, California, Columbia, and Southern Boone in my district. Those three chambers regularly attend those meetings, regularly hear from constituents, which is so important because you, the business owners, you, the citizens of the district, are the solution to all these conversations and all these problems. So working together in the district is what I will continue to do. I was proud this past session to restore $63,000 in cuts to Missouri Task Force 1. They're housed here in Boone County, and they do an incredible job. And it's just going to be an honor. I ask for your vote to serve. Continue to serve Missouri in the 50th district. I ask for your vote November 6th. Thank you.
Perfect, thanks. So again, District 50, Representative Sarah Walsh, Ms. Michaela Skelton is also running in that race, and then District 47, Representative Chuck Basie, Adrian Plank is running in that race. So thank you very much. And the Chamber would like to echo sentiments to all of our local delegation. We do appreciate everything you do to work with our community, and we know that whoever is elected will continue to do that. And it is very important, and we appreciate the time and attention because we know this is an extremely busy time for everybody right now as we approach Election Day. So thanks again, and appreciate you being here.
We're going to go ahead and we're going to transition to county level races, and so we're going to ask the candidates for the Boone County Presiding Commissioner and Boone County Clerk to come forward. We're going to continue in the same format that we've already had, a 1-minute opening statement from each participant here today, and then we will go then transition to questions that we've got, and they'll have 2 minutes to respond to those questions, and then we'll wrap up with a 1-minute closing statement after all the questions have been done. So today we're going to start with opening statements, starting with Dan Atwell, followed by Matthew Kavanaugh, then Brianna Lennon, and end with Taylor Brooks.
Thank you, and thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this. It's very important to get people out and talk to the public, and this is a great way to do it. My position with respect to Chamber of Commerce interests is probably pretty well known by most of you. I've had the privilege of traveling with the Chamber of Commerce to 3 different locations outside the state to check and see how other communities and counties similar to Boone County and Columbia, Missouri have dealt with issues such as job creation, growth issues, road issues, and a host of other things. And I would just like to say that the Chamber of Commerce in sponsoring those things has done a wonderful service for the community, because I've learned more in going with the Chamber on these trips than probably any other way. So as we rapidly run out of time, I'll pass the mic on.
Thank you. Mr. Kavanaugh.
I want to say thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for having this event today. My name is Matt Kavanaugh, and I'm running for Presiding Commissioner of Boone County. I have lived in Boone County since 1990. I've created a business here that did hazardous waste remediation. I had employed almost 60 people. I sold that business and pursued other endeavors in development in real estate, and both domestic and international. I'm a small business owner myself, so I have tremendous experience in regard to making payroll and understanding the trials and tribulations of running a business. I would like to say that I have been in Boone County in regard to running. I've been in Boone County long enough to know that we have a need for good leadership moving into the future. We have a situation where our growth is such that our planning process is falling behind.
Thank you very much. Brianna?
Hi, my name is Brianna Lennon. I'm running for Boone County Clerk. My background, I came to Columbia 11 years ago for law school, got a master's in public policy and a law degree, and then went to the Consumer Protection Division of the Attorney General's office. And I did that, but found that my real passion was in elections, and went to the Secretary of State's office, where I served as the Elections Counsel and Deputy Director of Elections, and worked with the Elections Integrity Unit to make sure that we had clean and fair and accessible elections. Worked with all 116 county clerks across the state, and saw the challenges that they faced every day, and wanted to use my experience to help Boone County voters.
Thank you very much. Taylor?
Thanks, Tech. I'm Taylor Burks. I'm the Boone County Clerk. I'm a veteran, an accountant, a fifth-generation Missourian, and I'm a bipartisan leader here in Boone County. I'm proud of the bipartisan record that I've established in the County Clerk's office over the past 15 months. The things that we've done, we've saved you $250,000 through the clerk's budget over the past 15 months. We've implemented a youth election program where high school students join us in municipal elections. I've developed a finance plan to pay for our $1 million that we're going to have to spend on election equipment, hopefully in the next year. These are the things that I've done by working with people across the aisle from me, and I think Boone County is better when we have leaders from both parties that can work together in the government center. I'd appreciate your support come November 6th.
Thank you very much. We are going to start with the presiding commissioner for the first set of questions. We're going to begin with Matt Kavanaugh, as Dan went first during the opening remarks. Mr. Kavanaugh, if elected, what would you identify as the top 3 priorities and issues that are facing our county?
Number one, I think we have an issue dealing with the fairgrounds, and I think we need to make sure we have a plan going forward of what to do with that asset. I believe it possesses tremendous potential as an economic driver for our county, and we need to make sure, pursue a plan that makes sure that that property is used to that end. Number 2, we need to make sure that we have a plan for Boone Hospital going into the future. Our hospital right now is in a crisis mode, and I think that it's not just a Boone County Commission issue, it is also a Boone Hospital Board of Trustees issue. There's no easy answer to that, and a lot of that is being driven from the standpoint of national health care. But we need to make sure that our hospital is positioned to move forward, whether in partnership or independently. And those are very difficult decisions that need to be made in order to get to the point where we have a viable, competitive alternative to the University of Missouri. And number 3, I think we need to make sure that we have a leadership that is engaged with the issues that go on in Boone County. We have a 911 call center that was budgeted to be built for $9 million. Today we're $22 million in, and it still has issues. We have a $1 million software program that runs that call center by Inspiron, and it does not function for the fire department. These are issues that are directly related to county commission oversight, and I think that we need to make sure that when we institute situations where our safety and well-being are affected, we need to have good leadership and due diligence before we implement these programs.
Thank you very much. Mr. Atwell, same question. If re-elected, what would you identify as the top 3 priorities and issues facing our county?
Well, having served as your presiding commissioner for 7 years, I now believe that our biggest issues are infrastructure, public safety, and taxation or revenue. But I feel like I'm obligated to answer a little bit of what my opponent has brought up. The fairgrounds is under a lease at the present time, generating revenue and making money for the first time in 30 years. It's done that now for 3 years. I could go on for the full time about that. The hospital is under lease to BJC out of St. Louis. That lease does not expire until 2 years from this December. The Board of Trustees works hard to try to find a way to keep affordable care available for people in Boone County and have choices for people in Boone County. Those are some of the things that are going on. The comments that he makes about the 911 center are just wrong. The budget for building the 911 center was $20 million, and we stayed under the budget. It is wrong to say that it isn't working, and I think we have some people here from the fire district who can confirm that. So I don't know where these ideas come from, but it's easy to throw things out right now in politics that have no bearing on the real life situation that exists. And that's just what we have to deal with. But infrastructure is hugely important. I went with the Chamber of Commerce to Washington, D.C. to meet with our legislative group and try to emphasize the need to get some help here on I-70. That's not coming quickly. We need to keep that pressure on. Our tax revenue through the South Dakota Wayfair decision is in tough straits right now. It shouldn't be, but the legislature is going to have to act in order for us to be able to collect the revenue that comes from internet sales. I'd like to go on, but you hear the noise.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We're going to come back to you, Mr. Atwell, with the second question. With the Boone County Hospital, and both candidates have alluded to this, with Boone County Hospital BJC contract coming to an end, what is the direction of the hospital and what would you support?
Well, the hospital at the present time, as I mentioned, is the trustees are reviewing options that they have. A new set of proposals is now available to them. I would like to see affordable care available to all Boone County citizens and to have the high quality of care that we've become accustomed to here in Boone County. But it's important to understand that medical care has changed in drastic ways. It is no longer the standard to go in for a procedure and stay a week. People who stay in the hospital over one night are rare. And that's had a great impact on the revenue that hospitals collect. This is not a problem just in Boone County. It's a problem across the nation. It's a problem with other hospitals under the BJC umbrella. They are facing tough times in a lot of their different areas. And the fact that the university has this unique situation that they are able to collect additional funding because they are a teaching hospital. Boone Hospital, doing the same procedure, gets less for the same process. So there's a constellation of issues that have come to bear on what happens with hospital treatment and the interest of doctors in providing a new way of delivering medical services. At one time, doctors were quite businesslike in their approach to medicine. That's changed. Most of the doctors today that are coming out of school are happy to work for a large corporation or directly for a hospital. Our existing doctors are not really all that interested in being a part of an organization because they haven't been for their entire careers. In addition to that,
2 minutes goes fast. Mr. Kavanaugh, same question. With Boone County Hospital and BJC contract coming to an end, what is the direction of the hospital and what would you support?
I support good leadership in regard to where Boone Hospital is going to go in the future. Currently, 2 years ago, Boone Hospital lost $1 million. Last year, it lost $2 million. This year, it's on track to lose somewhere between $10 and $12 million. We are exiting our contract with BJC, but the fact of the matter is, currently, as we sit here, there are 2 floors of Boone Hospital completely empty. It does not meet state requirement for staff-to-patient ratio. We have an issue of leadership involved with the fact that our money that comes out of Boone Hospital is being spent on issues that don't drive Boone Hospital forward in a competitive manner to compete in the future. We have a $24 million plus building built at the corner of Nifong and Forum that it ended up being an office space for the state of Missouri's Department of Aging. We use these resources in a way that have no benefit to creating an environment where Boone Hospital can be competitive in the future. The second thing is Mr. Atwell is correct. National hospital trends are changing, and there is no Uniform Reimbursement Act. But the fact of the matter is that we need to make sure that Boone Hospital remains a viable entity. I disagree when he says that most doctors today would like to affiliate with a corporation. We have an entire street over there, Keene Street, full of independent doctors and companies that provide services that are independent of the university and Boone Hospital that require inpatient treatment affiliation in order to exist. If Boone Hospital goes away, most of those entities will cease to exist or will be forced to join the university system. It's not just the hospital that's that's affected by this, it's an entire independent medical community that's affected by the future existence of Boone Hospital.
Thank you very much. We are going to now move to the county clerk, and we will begin with Taylor Burks as Brianna, 911 person opening statements. So Taylor, the first question here is we have, with the increased cost of elections, software, concerns of security and privacy of voters, how would you work with the city and the council to make elections more efficient and cost-effective without alienating voters?
Yeah, this is something that I have a record of doing over the past 15 months. We started by looking at the clerk's office, where we're spending money in both elections and our core budget. And like I said in my opening, we had saved about $250,000 over the past 15 months. Part of my discussions and part of my initial conversations with the city, the other communities here in Boone County and the County Commission when I first came on as county clerk was a discussion about the necessity for how often we're doing special elections. And I think that should be an ongoing conversation with all of the entities within Boone County when it comes time to have those on the ballot. I discussed about the August and November elections in 2017, which were special elections, cost us about $200,000 apiece. And so I think it should be a legitimate conversation between the county clerk and those entities on when we can consolidate an election, when we can save us the money of the full cost of the election itself. Internally, the plan that we've developed for funding new election equipment should keep our election costs stable, which in a world where you have inflation, where you have increasing costs in other areas, I think if we're able to keep those costs steady over time, that has a benefit for all of the jurisdictions here in Boone County when we call elections.
Thank you very much. Brianna, same question. With the increased cost of elections, software, concerns of security and privacy of voters, how would you work with the city and council to make elections more efficient and cost-effective without alienating voters?
I think a lot of the elections administration innovation that's been happening over the last 5 years is going to help go a long way. The kinds of voting equipment that we choose through a process that works for voters and for poll workers should also help us make sure that we're keeping costs in line. And another interesting development at the state level that I think will impact every county in the state is that they've changed the way that reimbursement of election costs has happened. So before, the state only paid for a limited number of elections, and they're now paying for all elections. And that has just gone into effect, so that's going to have an impact on how we budget in the future for elections that are coming up, especially when we're looking at the 2020 election and higher rates of turnout. Because that's the other thing to balance. The money that we're saving should be reinvested into voters, since it is such a customer service oriented position, and elections are really, the mainstay of our democracy. So when we're saving this money, it needs to be reinvested in things that help make it easier for voters to cast a ballot.
Thank you very much. So we're on to our second question, and Brianna, we'll start with you. How would you keep partisan politics out of the clerk's office when you are charged with running nonpartisan elections?
I think one of the most important things is making sure that elections administration itself does not have any kind of partisan bent to it. We have a lot of regulations and laws in place that have offsets with Republican and Democrat election judges to make sure that all of the processes that happen when a voter goes to the polls, they experience a nonpartisan process. One of the things that I really appreciated in working in the Secretary of State's office was that historically and actually currently with the director positions of the elections division, it had been one Republican director and one Democrat director. And when I worked there, we decided to do away with that, and we had a nonpartisan elections team working with the staff that was already there. And it would be hard for me to tell you there were 10 people that worked for me, and I don't know any of their political affiliations, because it doesn't come up when you're doing things like checking initiative petition signatures or making sure that counties that have had a challenge or need assistance with something are going to be getting the assistance from our office. I mean, you can't play favorites with really any kind of county. And out of the 116 county clerks, a fair number of them, I think, are Republicans. There are not that many Democratic county clerks across the state of Missouri. So I've had a lot of experience working across party lines to make sure that when we're doing elections administration, it's to the benefit of every voter, because that's really the end goal, is that every person that wants to cast a ballot, regardless of their political affiliation, gets to have the opportunity to do that.
Thank you very much. Taylor, again, how would you keep partisan politics out of the clerk's office when you're charged with running nonpartisan elections?
Yeah, this is an area where I've got a demonstrated record of retaining staff members, longtime staff members who have served on the Democratic Central Committee, keeping them in the office, and working across party lines, not just internally, but with the other Democratic office holders in Boone County government. So that's a record that I have. I think it demonstrates to this community that when you have an elected official or a public official from one party willing to hire and retain people from another party to run elections, that we have an internal mechanism to ensure all voices are heard in county government and running those elections. I've made the pledge, was the first to make the pledge that I wouldn't endorse any candidates or issues that appear on a ballot in Boone County, and that's new. Boone County, my predecessor, Wendy Noren, was known to make endorsements, and so my perception is that I think the election authority should not be making endorsements and keeping politics out of the clerk's office as well. This is an area where my opponent and I have some differences. So I have concerns about partisanship when my opponent's been endorsed by Our Revolution, which is a socialist Bernie Sanders group, or has received funding from PACs from Jefferson City and St. Louis that are funded by party leaders. I think that represents a serious concern about how we're going to keep partisanship out of the clerk's office when there's that partisan backing, that partisan endorsement going on in a county clerk's race.
Thank you very much, all four of you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your responses. We're now going to move to closing remarks for the presiding commissioner and county clerk's offices or races. As a reminder, you're going to have 1 minute, and we're going to start with Taylor, and then Brianna, and then Matt, and then Dave.
Sure. So again, thanks to the chamber for hosting this forum. I think it's a valuable public service. Anytime we get a chance to talk to folks, community leaders, about what our vision is for serving in our office. As I said from the top, I'm a veteran, an accountant, a fifth-generation Missourian, and a bipartisan leader. I think all of this is valuable for Boone County. But more than that, I have a record that we can look at. So I have a record of running elections. I'm the only candidate who's run an election before. I've led 5 of them since I've been county clerk. I have a record of managing budgets as an accountant, as a leader in the Navy, as a leader at the University of Missouri. I've managed the large budgets that we expect our elected officials to handle. I'm also the only candidate with experience implementing technology solutions and the challenges that we're going to face implementing new election equipment, but also countywide enterprise resource planners that the auditor and the treasurer have headed. The clerk's office plays a key role in those things that occur. I'm the only candidate with a record serving in the clerk's office and doing a good job for Boone County. I'm Taylor Burks. I'd appreciate your support on November 6th.
Thank you very much. Brianna.
Well, I'm Brianna Lennon. I'm running for county clerk, and I'm asking for your vote November 6th. My main goal is to make sure that everybody that wants to be able to vote can vote. I think we're a better community when everybody has the opportunity to make their voice heard, and I think that the clerk's job is really first and foremost to make sure that voters are protected, that their votes are protected, and that people can vote in the way that works for them. We really can't, if we don't have a clerk's office that's interested in making the voting experience better, then it hurts the rest of the elections that happen for all the other candidates. I mean, every candidate that we've seen here that's on the ballot relies on the clerk's office to have accurate and secure and fair elections. Otherwise, the rest of our democracy doesn't work. So that's my goal in running for this office, making sure that everyone has the opportunity to vote. So that's what I'm asking for you to do, and vote for me on November 6th.
Thank you very much. Matt.
I want to say thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for having this forum today. My name is Matt Kavanaugh, and I am running for Presiding Commissioner. I think that my experience and my opportunity to have this is my second go-around to go through an election process, has given me a unique insight to what it takes to do this job. As a small business owner, I've been able to experience what it takes to make payroll, what it takes to build a business from the ground up. I think that government is no different. Primarily, I'm a fiscal conservative, and I intend to continue to be a fiscal conservative and be responsive to the needs of Boone County citizens. I believe in transparency. I assets and our tax revenues. I appreciate your vote on November 6th, and I think that one thing we need to keep in mind, we all need to vote to make this process work.
Thank you very much. Dan?
Thank you again. I've lived in Boone County since 1965, except for 4 years of active military service in the United States Air Force. I've been your presiding commissioner since 2011. Since 2011, a lot of things have happened in Boone County. I don't claim credit for all of it, but I was there. We know how to do things. And a lot of counties would like to duplicate what we have done. And in fact, they call and ask, how'd you do that? My name is on a lot of documents that have to do with the landing of hundreds of new jobs for this county. And we know how to do that. And we know how to do it without taking any risk on the part of the taxpayers. That's the trick. You got to get these things done without having a future liability like some of our neighboring cities have had. We don't have future liability on any of these things, even if they fail. So at the same time, we are getting the benefit of all these different opportunities.
Thank you very much. Can we get a round of applause for all that? This is when we ad-lib it. No. Really want to thank all four of you. I want to personally thank Heather for her leadership, not only here, but on the Government Affairs Committee and what she does on behalf of the Chamber and the membership. We do have an opportunity, if folks would like, to answer ask some questions from the audience. I want to be really clear on one kind of ground rule on this, is that the questions are addressed to all candidates on that issue, not just one specific. So we'll take questions from the floor. Do we have it? Okay. Well, this concludes the candidates forum. We want to thank Stony Creek Hotel and Conference Center for hosting us today. And we hope that all of you remember to vote on November 6th. Please consider the responses that you've heard today. That concludes our forum, and thank you very much for attending and drive home safe.